Hello everyone, and welcome to a special video here on my channel where we're going to be discussing, me and my good buddy Proto here, we're going to be discussing our opinions on what we believe could be a game changer or an improvement to Wuthering Waves. So before we get started, Proto, do you have any preliminary thoughts on the matter?
No, I don't currently have any thoughts right now. We're just gonna.
So the first point that now this is just something that I have seen in a lot of Discord channels with discussions from people, a lot of these points. And the first point to address is that we need more male resonators. We do not have a lot. Our cast of male resonators consists of one 4-star and a few 5-stars. And if you look here on the screen and Proto and our DMs, uh, there are about 5 or so male resonators. And if you include the male rover, we have
Kalkaro, Zhang
4.
Liao, Yuan Wu,
Yeah, we have
Jian,
five
and Brat.
five male resonators that are 5-stars and one 4 and a 3 4-star male resonators. So we have a total of 8 males, and one of them is the main character. And as much as I love women and am all about seeing them on my screen and seeing the fantastic job that Kuro has come up with for designing not just their costumes, their lore, or even like the voice actors, but just also like where they are in the story, and their abilities. And I feel like a lot of the male characters have some cool abilities, but we just don't get to see a lot of that because it's very heavily swayed towards female characters. And I know we got a new one drip marketed for 2.4. Well, it's not for 2.4, but we got another one drip marketed in the 2.4 special broadcast. But we also got drip marketed, what, 5 or 6 females?
Yeah, it's what was it like Augustus, Lupa, heck, Cartithia, and Frolova. Oh my gosh, it's stacked with more female characters than there are. It's like it's only one male character amongst this whole cast,
I feel like if
and
they had. Go on.
we don't even know anything about this male character either. We
Yeah.
know about Filova. Heck, we've seen some stuff with Augustus in the announcements.
Yeah, we saw some of her. We saw Lupa. We saw Cardathea. And I feel like if they had just added another male character, it should have been fine. Hell, they should have made it a 4-star. A 4-star male character.
I can't even help but think that this one male character is just going to be 4-star anyways because like nobody really likes the male characters. It's unfortunate.
I kind of agree with that because a lot of the male characters, when you think about them in like the story, they're not very memorable. Like Mortefi shows up for all of like 2 cutscenes and then he's just not there anymore. Hell, even
Cal
the free 5-star they give us, Zhang Liao, he's only there for an event. He's not even there in the actual story.
and Calcar's not in the story. He just makes cameos in events.
Yeah, but I feel like that's teasing for him to be coming in 3.0. I feel like he's coming in 3.0.
But we'll have to see.
Yeah, and also does have a good presence at the end of 1.0 and in 1.2 and a little bit into 2.0 whenever you go to like get on the ship to go to Renacida. But after that, he's
Mhm.
just not there anymore. But then again,
Yeah,
I can't blame that on the cast on Kuro because like none of the 1.0 characters are in Renacida's story. So
yeah.
that's not really on them, but at the same time, it kind of is
I
because
think the only male character that kind of makes a lot of appearances in Minnesota is Brant, and he's the only male character in Minnesota.
yeah, he's the only male, and it's really, really sad to see that. So just give us some more male characters, I mean, like just like for every 7 females, give us 2 males. They don't even have to be 5 stars. They just give us 2 males. Give us more men.
Yeah, give
Cause
us variety. Just experiment. That's all we're asking.
yeah, and like a lot of the like I said, a lot of the male characters are just unmemorable. They're not even really like relevant to the story, or if they are, they have barely any relevance. Like poor
Young
Yuan
Wu is
Wu.
kind of just there in the story, and Lin Yang's character story is absolutely atrocious. It's probably the worst character story in the entire game.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And Yuan Wu's just there as a figure. He doesn't have any real. He doesn't have any voice lines. He's just there. You can talk to
Hmm.
him, but he doesn't exist outside of that.
But yeah,
So
more male characters.
more
That's all
male
we ask.
characters should be one of the things we think would fix this. The second thing is fix the RNG system on the echoes, please. It's god awful.
It's outdated.
Like
Like other games are starting to what? Aren't they starting to solve the RNG issue with their gear stuff, the artifacts, or whatever
something like
else they
that.
call it?
I haven't played any like super recent gotcha games outside of Rememento, but I haven't really played a lot of Rememento to be even like knowledgeable on how their gearing is. But the RNG system is heavily outdated. And I feel like what they should do is add an event once a patch where you can just craft an echo. You
Just
can
like in Epic 7.
like in Epic 7 before Epic 7 kind of started doing its own thing. But Epic 7 had an event where you could craft a piece of gear at gear level 85, and it would no, it would be gear level 88, which is the highest non-buffed, non-reforged piece of gear you can get. And it would have whatever substats you chose. All you had to do was spend energy to collect points, and then you'd spend those points to put into substats you wanted. And that's exactly what they should do with the ecosystem. I feel like if they did a 4 cost, a 3 cost, and a 1 cost, where you got to select the gear set, select the 4 cost, 3 cost, and 1 cost specific echoes, and then select the substats, the main stats, and the secondary stats, I feel like that would be fine. You could still have your shitty RNG system, but like 3 echoes that are guaranteed to be good throughout an entire patch should be fine. And on top of that, it would give people more of a reason to want to play. Because then, you have everybody who's like building characters and they're like, hey, this is a cool system that we could implement. And we're
That would have been
rewarded
really
well
great to
for it.
have on
Yeah,
the anniversary.
that should have been the anniversary event. Like, honestly, that should have been one of the anniversary things. And if they had included that in the anniversary, I could probably forgive them for,
A lackluster anniversary.
yeah, the anniversary was not stellar, but we'll cover that here in a little bit.
Hmm.
But yeah, just give us an echo crafting system event where we can specifically choose which echo we want. And when we get the substats, you could make it to where you could spend, you give us a random value, and I'll put the values here for just example like crit damage. Here's the values for crit damage that you could roll when you roll it on an echo. Make it to where on the echoes that we craft in the event, you can spend leftover points to re-roll the value of that stat until it becomes max value. Or if you wanted to take it like Epic 7, give it a limited number of re-rolls that you could do, but it will always increase up to the maximum value. Where sometimes the echo might not hit max value, but it should get closer to that max value. And I feel like that would be a much better way to go about keeping people invested in these echoes, because that would be, it would allow more people to build their characters up the way they want them to be, especially for, like, example, like me, I'm trying to make a killer Chong Li, and I feel
Mhm.
like just a couple of her echoes, if they were max stats, would really solidify her place not only on my account but in the team that I'm trying to build with her. And it'd be
Like
the same.
this is content. We're giving you content, Kura Games. Like just 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 take it or leave it, but mostly take it.
Yeah, please, at the very least, take it into consideration how you could implement it. It would be a very easy thing, because it would just be like your anniversary system. The coding wouldn't even be difficult to do, because with the anniversary banner selection, you would just copy that coding but make it for echoes. And I feel like you could easily implement that into this game. It's not that difficult to do. But for the third point, moving forward, flight. For what we saw, and this will be a prelude into the fourth point. But in 2.4's special broadcast, we saw it live, and we saw that the eventually players will be able to skip 1.0 story and go straight to Renacida. And while I think that is cool, and it gives the players a reason to play the game and skip to like a good story, it still kind of feels like you're chopping off a less than stellar part of the story. Like, it won't give the context of what happened leading up to Renacida. Or, and even if you give a summary pre Renacida, if players skip the story, I still feel like it would cut out a lot of important points, like the Threnodian and going to stop the time dilation and saving Jue on Mount Firmament. And then the whole Black Shores thing, that was really good.
Like Black Shores basically leads up to Renacida.
I don't think a summary could do any of that justice. And even though acts 1 through 3 in the first part of the story are not amazing, you could always just go back and rewrite the story and kind of fix the voice acting a bit. Like, that wouldn't be difficult to do. But I still don't think a summary would sum up or even do justice for leading into Renacida. So I don't think that would work. And then allowing players to have flight almost immediately. And if it's going the way that I feel like it's going to go, giving players flight immediately and then letting them take that flight into 1.0, I think that devalues the effort that the 1.0 players put into struggling and learning the game in 1.0.
That's only if like the flight mechanic is going to be implemented in the 1.0 area. We don't know that yet.
Yeah, that's just speculation on my part, but I still feel like they're probably going to. And I feel like the way to fix that is to lock flight for each part of the story or each part of the map in 1.0 and 1.1 and 1.2. Lock all of that behind exploration. Give players a reason to explore.
And these maps aren't really that big to begin with. So if you give the flight to like new players in these areas, they're going to clear content or just skip most of it without ever really appreciating it.
Yeah, and some areas in Jinzhou and especially Mount Firmament look really pretty and really well done. So giving the players flight to just skip that and ignore it completely, I feel like that just devalues not just the work and effort that the players in 1.0 put in, but also devalues the work that your creators and your designers put into the game. Especially since, like you just said, Proto, the maps aren't that big. And by that, he more means like tall wise, like height wise. There's not a lot in Jinzhou, Huanglong, Mount Firmament, and Black Shores that really requires you to fly to get up to. There's like a couple of mountain peaks you could get onto, and you can get onto the top of Mount Firmament with the Dragon Head. You can get up there easily, but Renacita has a lot of areas where flight is needed because you can get into like super deep depths or get onto super high areas, and you would need flight to get, up or down safely without a resonator being downed, essentially, because you lost stamina from gliding.
Like it does seem like the devs know what they're doing with their level designing. Like Renacita was designed with flight in mind, while the other maps weren't. Instead, they do have like puzzles and stuff that has like wall running and all that other challenges. So the devs do know what they're doing. I just hope that they don't end up doing as what you said, that they just implement like flight as a thing in the older maps. If they do, just make it like like something that the players need to earn first before anything else.
Yeah, and that's something that should be taken into consideration at the very least, because I don't want any players to feel like, oh, well, I went through all of the exploration of Jinzhou and Mount Firmament without flight, and now all of these newcomers are going to come in and just ruin my experience and tell me that getting all the exploration is super duper easy because I can fly around the map.
Like flying in Jinzhou would be extremely convenient for an older player, considering it's like, oh, we reached to Renacita, and but now that we go to Jinzhou, we just can't use that mechanic.
Yeah,
We
so I feel like the best way to implement flight in Huanglong and Mount Firmament and the Black Shores is to lock the availability of flying behind 50% exploration, and then once players reach Renacita and obtain the ability to fly, then that unlocks flight for Huanglong, Mount Firmament, and Black Shores for every zone that you've done 50% or more exploration in. I feel like that would be a good reward because that would still incentivize players to play the story to unlock flight, but also reward them for reaching that benchmark in the earlier areas.
like it's you could basically call it content, earnable content for newer players. So just take that into consideration as well.
Yeah. And then to continue on, the fourth point, we're going to compare the 2.3 patch with the 2.4 uh, special
Announcement.
announcement banner video. And what we saw for 2.3 was a lot. And I'm going to put it up on my screen here and you'll see just what I mean. But in the first half of 2.3, we got a new Resonator, Zani, and her weapon. We got
Mm-hmm.
a companion quest for Zani. And then we got
Yep.
five other banners. Five banners from previous Resonators, including Jian, Yenlen, Zhongli Yao, Zhezhe, and Phoebe.
As well as their respective weapons in the current anniversary banner.
Yes, including their weapons. And then for the second half of the patch, we got Chacona as a new Resonator, as well as her weapon. And then we got five other repeat Resonators that you could select from, including Jinshi, Chong Li, Brant, Rochia, and Carlotta. Now, there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with rerunning characters. There's nothing wrong with rerunning multiple characters on the same banner. Star Rail has done that multiple times. Genshin Impact has done that multiple times. But if you're going to run multiple characters, you need to make sure that the rewards for free to play players at least match up with the capability of them getting a couple of the characters. If you lock most of your characters behind your standard typical banner requirements, such as the 50-50 system or the same pity that you're fighting to hopefully get a character with, then you're going to just lock players out from wanting to take part in getting those resources or even spending money. Because if they feel like they have to spend money to get every single character they want, let alone just one or two of them, then they're going to be less inclined to, at the very least, spend the money, let alone go and try to build up those resources. Because,
We,
go
we
on.
actually did the calculations of how a new player would do the content, and just through the map doing like map content alone, they would only be able to pull for one character. And again, that's only if they like have like a 50-50 chance of getting that character. You're not guaranteed to get that one character after exploring all the content. But that's not also not included in the quests and story rewards that you receive. But just take that into perspective that all the map content that you do amounts to just a possibility of getting one character out of what 12 characters that they have on the banner, not including their weapons.
Yeah. And I'll put it here. The amount of astrite and pulls that we got for 2.3, and that would be just specifically for 2.3 alone. That includes events, Tower of Adversity, Withering Waste, Illusory Realm, and other things like that that would allow for players to get astrites and the limited pulls. And we also tallied up that in order to get all the characters, and if you have to go to max pity on every single one of them, you're going to be having to get about characters alone. You're going to have to get close to about 30,000 astrite. And that is very difficult. Actually, no, it's not 30,000. It was a lot. It was a lot of astrite. And with
It was a lot.
And if you've done everything in the game like I have, I've done, the only things I'm missing is like two maps explored, and I'm not capable of doing every single Tower of Adversity zone at max rating just yet. I'm still working on it. But in order for a player, a new player, mind you, to be able to do that, I feel like they would be given not a whole lot of opportunity to take advantage of all the banners that are available. Like I said, you if you want a brand new player to come into this game, they're not going to have, unless they're like, just now going into summer break from school, they don't have a job. If they were to sit down and play the game every single day and focus strictly on story and only doing story while, skipping the cutscenes and getting all the way through to 2.3, doing all the companion quests and everything, they'll have enough astrite to, by winning all their 50-50s, get half of the current banners.
Heck, even if they grind all the content, don't forget like the amount of time they gotta put in and the timer on the banners. Like, would they even make like get the characters that they want, all the characters that they want?
And that's what I'm saying. And
It's like,
and we both are in agreement that the banner is very, very heavily weighed towards Kuro making money. And as I've said before in many videos and on stream, I'm fine with game developers making money. You have to pay your staff. You have to pay the bills to keep the company floating and keep the building going where you can do your work. I understand. I completely get it. I'm all for making sure that you can keep that going so you can keep providing the service, the game, and everything. But what I don't like is when you strictly make something like this very pay to win heavy or pay to obtain heavy.
Especially for your anniversary where you're supposed to like thank your players for like a year of like playing their games. It's just not a good look. It really isn't.
And on top of that, if you go back to 1.3 when Zhongli Yao was coming out onto banner and was given to every player that had him, that is insane. You gave everybody a free 5-star as an apology for the game being bad on release and the issues that had been consistent and persistent and had been released with each patch up to 1.3 and even a little bit into 1.4. So a lot of the players already had the preconception that you were going to be generous enough to give us a 5-star character. But
This is a really great way to show your thanks, Kura Games. Granted, I understand that video game companies aren't obligated to thank their player base, but this again, it's just not a good look. It
it's
really isn't.
it feels like you're apologizing to everybody and telling them we'll do better, we promise, giving them this wonderful reward. And then when they thank you and they like your game and appreciate the hard work you've put into making the story better, making the exploration like god tier for an open world gotcha game, and then when your anniversary comes about where you're celebrating being around for a year and thanking your players, it almost feels like you're slapping them on the wrist for just playing the game.
Like, do you want us to play your game, Kura Games?
And like I said, Kuro, you've done a very good job at making sure the game is improved every single patch. But the anniversary didn't feel like an anniversary. It just felt
It
like you wanted money.
it was a complete content drought. There was like really nothing to do other than Sani's story and Chakona's story that were like the only two things that were added in that was new. And then you got like the events which were it's basically just same content as the base game with a few novelties, and that just didn't last long at all.
On top of that, you had an event that was time gated. The QB Derby, where you had to just vote on which cube that you wanted. Most people couldn't vote on that because they had to
Yeah,
go to work.
that was a really weird gimmick. I didn't like that at all.
I mean, I'm fine with the way that I'm fine with what it was. I wasn't fine with
Yeah.
the way it was implemented, where you had to vote by 8 a.m. Eastern time, and if you didn't vote by then it didn't count, and you lost those astrite because, well, sucks to suck, idiot. Get up at 3 in the freaking morning to vote. People have lives outside of gotcha games, outside of games in general, and I couldn't vote on a lot of those races because I had to work or I was asleep or I was handling some real life things that I needed to do. And I just felt shafted on that one event because I lost out on probably about 5 pulls worth of Astrite. It was not implemented very well. But if we look
Just
at go on,
just do better, Kura Games. That's all we ask.
make
Like,
your events more accessible at the very least for everyone. The best way you could have done that event was made it to where every other day was where you could vote. You leave the voting open for 24 hours and then it cuts off the next day. And then the next day, you have a full 24 hours to collect your rewards for voting, as well as getting the astrite. Because a lot of that was just make sure you vote and support and then watch the race that happened after you voted. This was just not a very good event. On top of that, you
I,
also didn't get to put in any other events that a lot of players have been asking for.
what have been players been asking for? This is kind of
Some of the players that I've seen and other content creators have been asking for new in-game modes that
mm.
vary based on player level, player
Oh,
wants.
the difficulty. Okay, I know
Yeah,
what you're talking about now.
like I would love more in-game modes that were tailor-made to what players wanted to do to get those astrites. Because Tower of Adversity, while that is a good in-game mode, because it's a very time-based, know your rotation, know your mechanics, know the fight of who you're going up against, that's fine because that's basically what the game is about. Not everybody has the capability of getting all of those astrites from that game mode. Hell, even me, who has built characters and made amazing teams, I'm still struggling with that because I'm either not doing as much damage or I'm not following through with the rotation, or sometimes the enemies are just bullshit. So I'm not able to get all the astrite.
Like it takes a lot of time to invest into just one character, and that one character is not going to carry you through the entire tower. You got to invest into multiple characters, not just one team. You need multiple teams.
Exactly. And with the ecosystem the way it is, going back to that point, you have to fight RNG not just on making sure that you can get the substats that you want, but making sure the substats that you get are not bare minimum. There, you do not know how many times I have seen a 4-cost Echo roll 12.6% crit damage as a substat. That does not feel good.
Isn't like the max substat for crit damage 23 currently?
Yeah, the max substat for crit damage is 23. The minimum is 12.6.
Oh, yeah, that doesn't feel good at all.
And it happens more times than not. So if you implement that as a new patch event, just make it a patch event that's a solid, consistent every patch event. That'll help the players be able to build the characters to go into those zones. And if we compare the 2.3 patch to the 2.4 special broadcast, we're getting a lot more from 2.4 than we got from 2.3. We're getting, at the very least, 2 new zones to explore. We didn't get any new zones in 2.3.
No.
We're getting 2 full stories, one per half of the patch, 2 companion quests. I'm sure I don't think I remember hearing it was confirmed, but a lot of the new characters, every character has come out with a companion quest, so I don't see why they would change that. So we're having 2 new banners with 2 new weapon banners, with 2 rerun banners more than likely, with 2 sets of story, minimum 2 new zones to explore, new echoes, new events, a new game mode event that's going to be coming out, the ability to, and I jokingly predicted this in the call, but to the ability to take a bath with your freaking resonators that you have on your account, like, we're getting so much just from 2.4. We got none of that in 2.3.
It's like they didn't really have any plans for this anniversary. Like I kind of just said that the reason why they were asking players like what they wanted to do for the anniversary, it's like they just had no plans. They didn't they that's why they asked the players. They didn't know what to do.
Well, they were also probably trying to figure out what would be a good enough anniversary reward. But the thing is,
Well,
a
also
lot of
also
players.
they're probably also focused on like developing 2.4 as well, which is why they were probably more swamped with that than they were with the anniversary. I think it's like the anniversary was more of like a second thought while they worked on like the main content.
Well, even still, you should put at least a little bit of effort into every patch. Giving us 2 new banners, 2 new characters, 2 new companion stories, with the way that Curl Games has been running each patch, that is bare minimum. That's like We go into into the meeting room once during during, you know, two patches prior, and we say, okay, what characters are we going to put out for this banner for this patch? Okay, these two characters. All right, weapons. Okay, this is what they're going to be weapon wise. Okay, kits somewhere around like that. Okay, do those. Get back to me in a week. Exploration. Do we need to add any new zones? Yes. Perfect. Events. Like that's like a 2 hour meeting at most of just giving you a ground idea of what we need to add for the patch.
Yeah.
So, at the very least, do a little bit more than bare minimum per patch. And on top of that, they showcased a lot of drip marketing for characters, which I'm actually happy about. That we're going to get to see a lot of new and hopefully interesting characters.
It definitely does look good. Like, don't get us wrong. It's like we're not exactly complaining about just complaining about Crow games. Like they made a really fantastic game. We just want them to do better. That's all, and they can. We know they can.
Yeah. So the way that you could that I suggest fixing the next anniversary, because this one's pretty much already passed, the next anniversary, at the very least, make the characters on the banners freaking guaranteed. And that goes for, at the very least, the rerun banners. Make all the
Yeah,
characters,
I would like that. That would have been nice.
having your rerun characters from literally every single patch in the game that you have just released all at the same time to be rerun, and at the very least make money off of that. Just make them guaranteed. You don't even have to lower the pity. But if you
Like
really,
we're not asking you to give us free characters. Just give us something that we can earn it. Like something feasible that makes it feasible instead of like having it to be overwhelming. Like you can still earn money. Like we're not asking you to just give us free stuff. Just give us the opportunity to earn it during the anniversary.
yeah, because I've talked to many people, and even during the anniversary patch, if they had saved up quite a few pulls, they still lost 50-50 on character banners. I lost 50-50 on Phoebe's banner. Like, you know how much that hurts? You give me 12 characters to select from, and most of them I don't have because my gotcha luck has been god awful in this game. Most of them I don't have, and I have to potentially not get them again because fuck it, keep the gotcha rates the same.
I've only managed to get like one character in this anniversary, and I think I what failed the 50-50 like in 20 pulls very early, which was I would say that would be lucky considering that I failed it early in some cases instead of failing it like at max pity, which feels the worst, definitely. But after that, I didn't pull for any other characters, simply because they're like you're basically marketed so many new characters. It's like nobody's gonna pull from this anniversary if unless they have money to spare, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, that's the only reason why you had this banner is to make money.
And if you focus strictly just on making money, you're going to drive players away from wanting to pull.
There's a thing called the bottom line.
The bottom line is you need to have enough pulls to where a player will feel inclined to maybe want to spend money. Whereas with what you did with this patch and this banner, you made it seem like players had to spend money to get the characters. And I can tell you there are people who would much rather spend their money on better things like, I don't know, paying bills or maybe buying a game that's come out that would be equivalent to losing the 50/50's money worth.
And then not to mention, it's the year of the gotcha killers because they're releasing a bunch of more like competitors to your game, Kura Games. You gotta have something to keep your players sticking around.
Yeah, like a lot of people are very hyped about games coming out like Ananta, Arknight's Enfield, Neverness to Everness, and I'm sure it has blown up way more than it has in my community. But Silver Palace, that game looks freaking amazing. You're gonna have to compete with that. That game looks so good. You at this point you can't tell me you haven't seen it. So what you should do is you should see that the game that's coming out is going to be good, and you need to think to yourselves, how can we stay in competition with this game? Because once this game comes out, if it is not completely riddled with bugs and glitches and things that would deter the players from playing it, how can we keep players interested in this game that we are currently making?
Like Hoyo was like your only competitor, and Hoyo itself had like what 3 to 4 games competing within itself, and
Yep.
most of those games have been like going on a downfall because they're just older games and just they're also having like a VA issues. Like Hoyo's just having a really bad time currently. And it's like now's not the time to get complacent because your one competitor is falling on hard times because now you got more competitors.
So I think we can go ahead and grab the last point that I wanted to discuss, and that is the banners. The banners specifically, I feel, are very weak. At the very least, the standard banner is super weak. The standard pulls are very weak right now.
At least the currency is very weak because
Yes.
the only use it has is mostly for like the weapons because the weapons have more value than the characters that you are more likely going to have if you end up failing 50-50 when pulling from the like the current banner, the current limited banner.
Yeah. And with people like me who have had just rotten luck and having to spend all of their resources just trying to get the banner character and losing 50/50 on the standard banner characters to try to get that character, it just I've filled out my roster of the game. I'm only missing limited characters now. And the only characters that I'm really missing are like Gion, Rochia, and Phoebe and Jeje. Those are the only characters I'm really missing in the current. Oh, and Chacona because I'm not pulling on her. But I'm
Hmm.
I'm missing like 5 characters that are limited because I've had to either skip them or I've lost 50/50 and just never really got to have them. And the way you could combat this, especially since the way you're marketing and trying to keep the game relevant is making sure pretty much at the very least all your 5 stars are viable, at least the limited ones. If you make it to where your 5 stars are viable, then people can play any character they want in the game because most of the game is just skill based. Echoes help, but it's skill based. And the way you can do that is you can strengthen the standard banner currency. And my suggestion on how to strengthen it is any rerun banner, any limited rerun banner, you allow the player to pull that with either limited or standard banner currency because you've already drip marketed the rerun. You've already made your money off the rerun for people pulling, and like Proto said, the standard banner currency is really just for the weapons. The weapon banner is the only banner you really anybody pulls on with the standard weapons because of the fact you can lose 50/50 and get the character. So If you're like me or anybody who's got, at least an IQ of above 60, then you realize that it's probably genius for you to pull on the standard weapon banner with the currency and just ignore the standard banner. My other suggestion for strengthening, at the very least for helping players who are free to play, is if they lose the 50-50 on the limited banners, make the guarantee half pity, please. Make it guaranteed in 40 pulls, not 80.
Yeah, I think that might be better considering like as the game like progresses and gets older and older and we get like a larger character roster. It's like that's like one of Genshin's main issues is that they have a massive character roster, and it's like the currency that you can like get in like the game is like it's not enough for like the massive amount of characters that these gotcha games are gonna start adding up to the pile.
Yeah. So if you could if you could drop the pity to half if you lose 50-50, or make a hard cutoff of 120 pulls for losing 50-50 for obtaining a character, then that would be very beneficial for those who are like me, just lose 50-50 constantly at max pity. Because like I
Like
said, I've had to go to max pity on every gotcha character except Zani.
yeah, there are players out there that just have no luck with
That's
this stuff.
me. I have
The
zero luck.
the only luck they have is just basically able to live.
Like,
Oh.
I skipped Jian so I could have Yin Lin, and it still took me like 150 pulls to get her. I didn't spend any money, but I definitely had to grind out a little bit of exploration to get her after doing dailies and events and everything.
Yeah, I had to do that for Yenlin as well uh during the anniversary. Granted, I did get, as I said, with like I failed the pity the 50-50 when early on, but again, I had to grind the rest out.
Yeah, it was just it didn't feel good. So I say leave a hard cap at 120 pulls for, or you could just make it double soft pity and make it 130 pulls. But you should lower the guarantee if you're going to keep the 50-50 system for character banners. Lower the guarantee because it's just players. Yeah, you're incentivizing players to spend money, and while you can still make money off of that if a player really really likes a character, you're not really keeping free to play friendliness by making a player spend every single pull that they saved up from events, story, exploration, and end game content just to get a character. Just give people a reason to want to spend money on your game. That's all we're saying. And if you make adjustments to where you can make it easier for free to play players who are borderline wanting to spend money, like for example, if you make a patch that gives players 100 pulls to obtain a character on a banner, and they go and do 100 pulls and don't get that character, but they lose 50-50, then they have to come up with a 60 more pulls at the very maximum in order to get a character. 60 pulls is like $50. Whereas if you drop it by 30 to 130, make it double soft pity, then that same 100 pulls gives players a little bit more to work with. But at the same time, you'll probably make more money because if a player goes, well, if guaranteed pity is 130 pulls, and I spent 100 and didn't get the character, I have at most 30 more pulls. That's like $20. That's
And
like $25.
just recently, Hoyo kind of just announced on all their games how much these characters cost. If your luck is absolutely atrocious, and if you actually spent money on in order to guarantee it, it amounts to $400. And people who found this out were definitely turned off about like this whole gotcha idea. So keep that in mind as well. It's like if you want people to buy your like stuff from your game, just you got to make it like it's like at least appealing enough where it's like okay, I can spend like this amount of money for like this one character, right? Like you just got to make it feel like players are a bit like just like I don't know, like what's a good word, like justified in making a purchase, like
Incentivized.
yeah, incentivized.
And you can do that by just dropping the guarantee, like the absolute guarantee. And I'm not saying drop it to be super crazy, because in my honest opinion, you should take after like Epic 7, where you have a guarantee your character comes in these pulls.
Yeah, Epic Seven's gotcha system is still currently the best out of like what every gotcha game in existence currently.
I would argue Memento actually is
Is that like the
pretty
most
good.
recent one that came out?
That's the one I've been playing on stream the last couple days. Their gotcha system, there is no guarantee on a character, but
Uh
once you
huh.
get to 120 pulls, because every time you do a pull, you get a currency. Once you
A
get to
currency.
100, yeah, you get a special currency. It's a special gem. And once you get 120 of those gems, then you can buy a 5-star limited character. Those gems carry over indefinitely until you spend them. So if you pull and you don't get a character on this banner, then you can go ahead and buy the next banner character if you've done 120 pulls. On top of that, all the limited banner characters go to standard banner when their banner's done. So I would
Was it?
say this is pretty fair.
Yeah. 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 It's like you just earn currency from pulling, and it's like you can use it to get the character you want, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That's pretty fair. I like that. That's also a really good option. It's like pull for a character that you're trying to get. If you don't, well, you got the currency to spend for the character to get the character you do want. Yeah, that's great. I like that. That's
and
that's
the
that's great.
standard banner also follows the same rules too, but it's 200. It's 200 pulls. So once you do 200 standard banner pulls, you can buy any character on the standard banner as well as any copies of characters on the standard banner.
Wait, you can actually use standard banner currency in to use for those limited characters?
When they become standard banner characters, yeah.
Oh right, I remember you saying that like every time those the limited characters get released, they move into the standard banner. That's actually pretty dope.
Yeah,
I like that.
Memento probably has the best gotcha system that I've seen because it forces your limited characters to become standard after they're released, and then you can buy them with standard currency if you missed them.
And that basically increases the value of standard currency.
It does.
Holy,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
If,
Like
if,
Memento has some issues with the game, but the gotcha system is not one of them. They did the gotcha system very well.
okay, yeah, the gotcha system is great, but Viva Mentos is still kind of a train wreck. It's so crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems, but I'll cover that in a later video.
Yeah,
But yeah,
some other video, but not here. That's a whole other thing. Holy.
Kuro, please do something similar. I'm not saying copy them exactly, but do something similar. You're already halfway there with us being able to spin those corals to buy character resonance chains. Hell, I think you should take after Star Rail and make it to where when you R6 a character or resonance chain 6 a character, if you pull another copy of them, then you can buy some, like another character from the shop instead and have it open to be, hell, you could, if you wanted to, rotate limited characters that you could buy from the shop, and you could spend that on either their resonance chains or you could buy straight up characters. Like, do something like that. I think that would be cool, because that would incentivize players to not be too discouraged when they keep pulling the same stupid standard 5-star characters and they're getting nothing out of it except 5 free pulls. That would also give more value to losing 50-50 on the standard banner characters, which would then again strengthen your gotcha system even more. I think to sum up this point, make the standard banner pulls more valuable, adjust the pity after losing 50-50, and add in something to aid players when they lose 50-50s and wind up maxing out a standard character or even just a character in general if you add more characters to standard.
Yeah, I think adding more characters to standard wouldn't be too bad. I think the standard roster is still kind of a bit limited currently.
I feel like what they should do at the very least is when 3.0 hits, I think they should put all the 1.0 to 1.4 characters on standard. And then that should just be the standard roster is the current standard plus 1.0 to 1.4. It's
If they
gonna
do that, they definitely need to buff up some of the current standard banner characters.
I think a lot of the standard banner characters are actually fine. I think the only one that could really use a buff would be Ling Yang, but that's just because his team, he doesn't have a select team he could use.
I don't know. We'll see. I don't like some of these characters have been power crept, and it's like if we add in like characters that did end up power creeping them, it's like in the general consensus I hear with Kalkar, like he's been power crept. Like that's like the general consensus that I've been hearing, and I have to agree.
Any concluding thoughts?
No, I think we're good. Just just keep it civil in the comment sections. Like this is all like an opinion. We're two passionate gamers that really like this game, and we just want this game to be better to improve. Like it's not we're not basically dumping on this game. It's like we're only making like some constructive criticism because we like this game and we want it to be better and we want to continue enjoying this game. So just be nice. And if you guys have like any thoughts, be sure to keep it civil and share your thoughts of how you think current games can improve, or if they even need to be improved at all. Just you know give us your thoughts.
Yeah. And I totally agree that, again, this is, like I said at the beginning of the video, this is purely our opinion, but like Proto said, we are very very happy with the game, but there are, nothing is perfect. There could be improvements made for a lot of stuff, and we just wanted to voice what we thought could be improved in the game to provide a better experience for players without really damaging too much of what Kuro's done.
Yeah, we don't want to hurt Kuro's bottom line. We just want to, you know, help both players and the company where we can meet like a middle ground of sorts if possible.
Yeah, so in conclusion, do better, but you've done good so far, but do better because the anniversary is not
Just
great.
don't get complacent. Like complacency is like the enemy of like any company, really.
Yeah, because if you do, you're gonna start experiencing kind of what a little bit of Genshin and Star Rail and some of ZZZ has experienced, which is just players leaving because they're dissatisfied with the game. So
That's basically the whole of Hoyo currently. They're just being too complacent.
yeah, they've been at the top for so long they don't realize that they have to keep their players invested. So yeah, but anyways, thank you all so much for taking time to watch us yap and rant and rave about what we think could be improved in the game. And be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to see more comments. And if you like the current content that I've got going, uh, as well as like Proto said, be civil in the comments. A debate is fine. I love to see debates, but just don't harass people. Just be nice. And I will gladly see you all in the next video.